In the heart of Pakistan, where ancient traditions whisper through winding alleyways and bustling bazaars, a single thread can weave a tapestry of change. This is the story of Amira, a woman who dared to dream beyond the confines of her small village, armed with nothing but a needle, thread, and an unwavering spirit. Her journey from a struggling artisan to a beacon of hope for hundreds of women will leave you spellbound and inspired. But before we dive into this colorful world of revival and empowerment, ask yourself, what forgotten skill lies dormant in your hands, waiting to transform not just your life, but the lives of those around you? If you're ready to explore stories that celebrate the indomitable human spirit and the power of cultural preservation, hit that subscribe button now. Join our community of dreamers, doers, and changemakers. And don't forget to ring that notification bell so you never miss a tale of triumph that could spark your own journey of transformation. Picture a village nestled in the rolling hills of rural Pakistan, where time seems to stand still. This is where our story begins, in the humble home of Amira Khan. As a child, Amira would sit for hours, watching her grandmother's weathered hands dance across fabric, creating intricate patterns that told stories older than the hills themselves. Each stitch was a whisper from the past, a connection to generations of women who had come before. But as Amira grew, she noticed fewer and fewer girls learning this ancient art. The allure of modern life and the struggle for daily survival pushed traditional embroidery to the brink of extinction. The vibrant threads that once bound their community together were slowly unraveling. One fateful afternoon, as Amira sorted through her late grandmother's belongings, her fingers brushed against a small, ornate box. Inside, she found swatches of fabric adorned with the most exquisite embroidery she had ever seen. Patterns of peacocks, lotus flowers, and intricate geometric designs danced before her eyes. With trembling hands, she unfolded a yellowed piece of paper, her grandmother's final wish. "Keep our stories alive, my dear Amira. In every stitch, there is strength." It was in that moment, surrounded by the echoes of her heritage, that Amira made a decision that would change not only her life, but the lives of countless women in her community. Armed with her grandmother's needles and an unshakable determination, Amira set out to revive the dying art of traditional Pakistani embroidery. But where to begin? The village elders shook their heads, dismissing her efforts as a foolish girl's fancy. "Times have changed," they said. "There's no place for such frivolities in our modern world." But Amira knew better. She saw beyond the present struggles to a future where art and tradition could coexist with progress and prosperity. With a fire in her heart and calluses forming on her fingertips, she began to embroider day and night. She experimented with color combinations that would make a peacock envious, and patterns so intricate they seemed to come alive under her careful hand. Word of Amira's creations began to spread. Women from neighboring villages would come to marvel at her work, their eyes wide with wonder. "Teach us," they pleaded. And so, in the shade of an old banyan tree, Amira's first embroidery circle was born. 5 women became 10, 10 became 20, and soon, the sound of laughter and the soft clinking of needles filled the air. As they stitched, they shared stories of hardship, dreams of a better future, and the joy of creating something beautiful with their own hands. But the path of an innovator is never smooth. As Amira's circle grew, so did the challenges. How could they source quality materials in a remote village? Where would they find buyers for their creations? And how could they convince families that this was more than just a hobby, that it could be a pathway out of poverty? Amira's nights were filled with endless calculations and worry. There were times when she wondered if the elders had been right, if she was chasing an impossible dream. But then she would look at the faces of the women in her circle, faces that now held hope where once there was only resignation, and she knew she couldn't give up. With the determination of 1,000 embroidered stitches, Amira set out to find solutions. She traveled to the city, a journey that filled her with equal parts excitement and trepidation. There, she discovered a world of possibility. She learned about microlending, fair trade practices, and the growing global interest in authentic, handcrafted goods. Armed with this knowledge and a suitcase full of their finest work, Amira knocked on doors, pitched to shopkeepers, and even set up a small stall in the bustling city bazaar. Many turned her away, but a few, enchanted by the quality of the work and moved by Amira's passion, took a chance on her vision. As the first orders trickled in, a transformation began to take place in Amira's village. Women who had never earned a rupee of their own were now contributing to their household incomes. Girls who once saw little future beyond early marriage were now dreaming of becoming artists and entrepreneurs. The impact rippled out beyond just economics. As the women worked together, sharing stories and supporting one another, a new sense of community blossomed. They began to speak up more, both at home and in village meetings. They started literacy classes, determined to be able to read the orders and correspondence themselves. Amira's initiative, which they now called Threads of Change, became a symbol of hope and empowerment. Visitors from other villages and even other countries began to come, eager to learn from their success. But it wasn't just the women who were changing. The men of the village, initially skeptical, began to take pride in their wives' and daughters' achievements. They saw how the additional income improved their lives, putting better food on the table and sending more children to school. One particularly touching moment came when Amira overheard a father telling his young daughter, "You see that building? That's where Amira and the other women work. Maybe someday you'll create beautiful things there too." The pride in his voice brought tears to Amira's eyes. As Threads of Change grew, Amira knew they needed to think beyond just creating beautiful products. They needed to ensure that their success was sustainable and that it honored the environment that had inspired their art for generations. She began researching eco-friendly dyes and sustainable sourcing practices. The women experimented with natural dyes made from local plants and flowers, creating rich, earthy hues that told the story of their land in every thread. They also started a seed bank, growing and preserving the cotton plants that had been native to their region for centuries. This not only provided them with a sustainable source of materials, but also helped revive agricultural practices that had been all but lost. Amira's foresight paid off. As global consciousness about sustainable and ethically produced goods grew, so did the demand for their products. High-end boutiques in London, New York, and Tokyo began featuring their work, telling the story of the women behind each piece. But success brought its own set of challenges. How could they scale up production without losing the personal touch that made their work special? How could they ensure that rapid growth didn't lead to exploitation? Amira tackled these questions head-on. She implemented a profit-sharing model that ensured every woman benefited fairly from their success. She also set up a training program where experienced embroiderers taught newcomers, ensuring that the quality of their work remained consistently high. 5 years after Amira first picked up her grandmother's needles, Threads of Change had grown beyond her wildest dreams. Over 500 women were now part of the initiative, each one a master of her craft and an inspiration to her community. But for Amira, the numbers told only part of the story. The real magic was in the transformations she witnessed every day. There was Fatima, who used her earnings to send her daughter to university, the first in their family to pursue higher education. There was Zara, who once barely spoke above a whisper and now confidently led training sessions for new recruits. And then there were the little girls of the village, who now played games of embroidery workshop instead of just house, their aspirations expanding with every stitch they saw created. As Amira walked through the new community center built with the proceeds from their work, she paused before a wall covered in photographs. Each image told a story: women receiving awards, their products displayed in international exhibitions, girls graduating from school. At the center was a faded picture of her grandmother, smiling proudly. Amira reached out and touched the photo, her fingers tracing the wrinkles on her grandmother's face. "We did it, Nani," she whispered. "We kept our stories alive." But Amira knew that this was not the end of the story. It was just the beginning. As she looked out the window at the women chatting and laughing as they worked, their needles flashing in the sunlight, she saw not just the present, but the future. A future where tradition and progress walked hand in hand, where every woman had the power to weave her own destiny, where a single thread could indeed change the world. As the sun set over the hills, painting the sky in hues that rivaled their finest embroidery, Amira picked up her needle once more. There were still more stories to tell, more lives to transform, and she would do it, one stitch at a time. Amira's journey reminds us that within each of us lies the power to create change, to revive forgotten arts, and to empower entire communities. If her story has inspired you, don't let that feeling fade. Take action now. Share this video with someone who needs a spark of inspiration. Leave a comment telling us about a tradition you'd like to revive or a change you want to make in your community. And remember, subscribe to our channel for more stories that will ignite your passion and fuel your dreams. Together, we can weave a better world, one thread at a time.